Here's one kind of cover. Well, it's better for the car. It's just sun eats them alive.
Call to order.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, it's recorded.
No, it'll be a phone.
We'll call the meeting to order.
Thank you for you. Yeah.
We'll start with the reading and the approval of the minutes for our September 16th, 2021 meeting. Need a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, need a second.
I'll second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
On to the finance report.
I'll make a motion to approve the check detail as presented.
I'll second it.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I'll make a motion on the cash flow statement as presented.
Okay, need a second on that.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's it on that. On to our transition and strategic planning. We had a meeting yesterday. Myself, Maggie, and Fred. Maggie, do you want to give us kind of?
Sure. For some, this is back to the future. We started this discussion in January of 2020. We were interrupted slightly by a pandemic. But at that time, the board thought it was important to start looking, do some strategic planning and transition into, what we might look like given the very big changes. And that was only accelerated, frankly, by the pandemic. So the committee is looking, and we will be reporting out to the board in November and December. We're looking to revise the mission statement. So for folks who are interested, we'll circulate, but we're really looking to crystallize the mission statement into where we think the IDA should be going and can be going. We will be looking as well at our governance structure. And looking right now, we are all the governance committee, and as we transition into the future, we will be looking to board members to play different roles in our future. We're a small board, but as we look to a more refined mission and more focused mission, we think that it'll be more important for the board, for the committees to take a more active role than all of us kind of doing this collectively. So we'll be making some recommendations in terms of a governance committee and looking for nominations and folks who might want to, that will be a little bit more of a time commitment, certainly not a lot, but it will be guiding our staff and the folks who report to us and providing a little bit more structure as we move forward. And then finally, we will be making some recommendations on on job titles and job functions, and the kind of the day-to-day operations of the IDA, looking to do that effective 2022. So that will, while this sounds a little boring, I mean that we are taking a closer look at personnel policies. We're taking a closer look at job titles and job functions. And so we anticipate making recommendations to the board in November and December that will structure us moving forward into a more, I don't want to say streamlined, but into a new operations model that reflects both our financial, our revenues, as well as what the workload is. And in short, we're not doing shovel-ready parks anymore. We're not buying up land right now and holding it and then going out and kind of shopping that. We actually have a pretty big book of land right now. The IDA and the staff have done a really capable job of getting those things ready. But the pandemic has kind of also rewritten some of what our mission is and some of what is out there and how the world is moving forward. So we anticipate making recommendations in November and December. They will incorporate personnel policies, revenue, and looking at some of the governance and mission statements of the IDA.
Great. Thank you, Maggie.
Thank
Good job. Anybody have any questions about that? You guys, I mean, the three of us have been kind of talking about it, so you guys are a little out of the loop.
We're looking forward to.
And a lot of the things we've already discussed as a board over the last year or so. So it's really just getting this refined down to pen to paper. So we have some clarity, even the mission statement. I think it's really refining it down. It's less, not more. I guess
Right.
is where we're heading. It's a little clarity, simpler, more strategic focus type thing. So we'll have that in November. for probably some action, I would imagine.
Yep. And I mean, honestly, in talking with both Renee and April, and then looking forward, much like every one of you guys doing your business every day, there's peaks and valleys in this particular IDA. Our geography, our mission, and all those things. And so we're really looking at kind of smoothing out those peaks and valleys, and what does that really mean from a staffing and support point of view, and how we're going to maintain that given our revenue stream.
Thanks,
Mike.
All right, so
Thank
let's
you.
rock and roll right down through all the meat and potatoes here, what we do for a living. First project up, Hudson Champlain Power Express. Basically, today we're ready to move forward on making the final approvals. We did a public hearing on the 13th. And it was literally me and April, project representatives, and Melanie from the press. Nobody else attended. I will note we've received no written comments. I've received no comments back from any of the elected officials on the findings statement. The only other comment we got, I guess, would say was positive, is Randy Squires, the superintendent of CA school, tried to log in late, and we already were done, so April was emailing him. His only question was this new revenue on top of the CSX revenue? Yes, of course. And he sent back a $sign and a thumbs up emoji. So I don't know how the stenographer would record that in the record exactly.
I think in tech world, that's approval.
I think you just recorded his
approval. So anyway, just again, as everybody knows, this one, we've got this one set up. It is the mortgage tax exemption, it is the sales and use tax exemption, and we are looking at the 30-year pilot as well as the 30-year community host fee. On the business development community benefit side, there will be $2 million coming to the IDA to go into our parks account, $1 million at close, financial close for the project, and $1 million at commercial operation. And as we noted earlier with Maggie, likelihood that we're going to do full-blown, our total responsibility business park development is probably the wayside. But some reiteration of that with partnerships and other things to make it more effective. The point is, we are still trying to position us with these projects to have some cash availability. So, we're not totally out of the game when we have something. So that'll be a nice little hit, and that'll go into our parks account for that. And then I would note for the board that this will be right about a $1.8 million transaction fee to the IDA. So that'll go a long way to stiffen it up to operating reserve account. So today I'll turn it over to Paul right now to go over what we basically need to do is adopt all the resolutions. I will remind everybody, and Paul can say this up, there's no secret process with this because this did go through the Article 7 process. It's exempted from seeker. So I'll turn it over to.
All right, I think there's a resolution in your package dealing with it's a final resolution. So as Renee said, this is a project that's exempt from seeker under Article 10 of the Public Service Law, and so it's considered a Type 2 action. So I'm memorializing that in the document, okay? And the next piece is just approving, it's a final lease resolution. So what are we doing? We're approving the finding statement, which you've all seen, which sets forth that we're giving them an exemption from sales tax, an exemption from mortgage tax, and approving the pilot agreement, which is split amongst 4 towns, 2 villages, and I think 4 school districts. Yeah. So it's pretty complicated, but it's set forth under that. It's a 30-year pilot. And again, when you think about it, this line is running right down what is in essence existing property. So there's no real harm to our community. It's actually found money. So the project itself, that's why I think the public interest has approved it. Within the resolution itself, it references, the 30-year pilot agreement, the exemption from mortgage recording tax and the sales tax, which are fairly substantial. It's a big project. So there are conditions in the document that they enter into a host community benefit agreement with, as set forth in the finding statement, with the towns and villages, pursuant to which they make annual payments within to those host community beneficiaries, the amount set forth in attachment 2 to the finding statement. And as a condition proceeding, they're paying $2 million for our business park approval, $1 million upon closing, $1 million upon commercial operation. If they fail to or attempt to terminate the pilot agreement, which I'm not sure why they would do that, but then it's subject to our recapture rules. So,
On that one, let me clarify here, because this was an important part of the negotiation with me when, we were looking for 10, and then we settled at 5 in the middle percent on an increase, but my demand was that they make it non-terminal, and mainly because we don't know what the hell the state's doing at any given time with the real property tax law. Tomorrow the state could come in and make them, that's just like the railroads, where there's ceilings or something on it. So that's why, they said, I specifically asked them this question, if there's changes in the real property tax law in the future, and they said, no, we're willing to pay this no matter what, and I'm like, well, then we're gonna put that in the paper. We're gonna sign a line on that.
so the material factors are the increase in assessed value of 75 million in full value throughout the whole line within the county, and the funding of the host community benefit agreement. And we put forward in paragraph section 16 a monitoring requirement. So if someone would move that resolution as written.
I'll make the motion to move the resolution.
I'll second the motion.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So,
I don't know who their counsel is, Paul. I'll have to figure out who their counsel is to get you working.
we've spoken.
Shane Hudson?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Sports.
Oh,
I
sure.
know those guys, Moses and Sports. They're out of Syracuse, so they're fine.
Okay, I just to make sure we had some, I see that Wilder's, Shapiro's been back actively.
Yeah, we're
You guys right on the ball on that, but
Yeah.
anyway, moving right along to Wilder Wyndham, same thing, we had the public hearing on this one. In fact, the press was on it, even the press couldn't ask a question, so I guess we're doing a pretty good job here for the press can't even ask a question. I will note, just for color, I guess, background color, we didn't run into what I would call a snag. We ran into sort of a gentleman's disagreement on valuation, post-valuation of the hotel property. The way I like to work things is we get with the assessor, we figure out what's being done, and try to agree on a number in the future it's worth. And in this particular case, all the properties are worth about $3 million now. They're putting all that money in. A lot of the money's not going to reflect an increase in the, new siding, new HVAC's not going to increase it. But, I worked with Richard Tolan, and he came up with a number like 7.8. Now it's 110 keys. And with, as big dining rooms and all this. And I said, based on all the work I had done with hotels, I thought 7.8 was a good number. They wanted to be somewhere around 6 or 5. Quite frankly, I just said I wouldn't sign a finding statement that had a assessment of that. That's just like, how do you explain to people that you did a $20 million project, it's only worth this? And then
Yeah.
we had a conversation that suggested that we could maybe delay the project and get further data such as your appraisal from the bank loan, and they wanted to do that. So, but anyway, I don't think they'll cancel, but where we are with it right now is, I said, if you don't like it, I'm working the numbers, we're putting it in there, and if you choose not to take the pilot later, then it's your call on it, but I'm not going to.
They're
I'm
full.
not gonna put in a lower number on the, and they were good about it, I can't blame them, that's what they're trying to do, that's their job, but, anyway, we played a little hardball, and I think they will sign, I think they will do the pilot for sure, but it's in there based on projections of savings based on a $7.8 million full value on the hotel, and even then, I think that's still relatively light.
That sounds about right. There's some old buildings.
Well, see, part of it come up is, and I can't blame them, they were trying to do comps, and they were trying to comp somewhat reasonable, somewhat relative type properties, but the first time they ran them to me, they ran them across municipalities, and they were trying to do comps on a fair market value basis, and I said, well, that doesn't work when Wyndham's got an EQ rate of 93, and the Emerson over in Phoenicia's got an EQ rate of 0.26. I said, and then they took the Wyndham rates, the hotels, and I tried to comp them on those, just basically total value to keys. And I said, well, that don't work, because you're looking at Rick Rasmussen. Rick Rasmussen has 350 square feet of improvements per key. You have 10, whatever the number was.
Yeah.
You got so anyway, I think they decided to stop arguing with me, and we just, that's what we said. But I did want the board to know that we did play a little hardball, and that's not usual for us to just kind of get engaged. But I just felt it was important. I don't know how the IDA could put a number that low on that. So again, we are ready to go. Town supervisor spoke in favor. We heard nothing from school. We're good. So, Mr. Goldman, if you would.
All right, so in your package, there's another final lease resolution for the Wilder Wyndham project. pursuant to which it's a type 2 action under secret. It's the old Thompson House, so it's generally existing buildings. And then we're approving the finding statement and approving the financial assistance in the form of a mortgage recording tax exemption, sales tax exemption, and a 16-year pilot agreement, which is a fixed dollar pilot payment. The financial assistance on page 4 is the payment in lieu of tax agreement set forth in the schedule, mortgage recording tax exemption up to $13 million, and a sales and use tax exemption. So they are making a one-time host community benefit agreement payment of $65,682 to the agency for the tourism facility at exit 21. And basically it's approving just those exemptions. The material factors are an investment of at least $10 million and creating approximately 20 new jobs. So if someone could make that motion.
I'll make the motion on the resolution.
Second it?
Second, all those in favor?
Aye. And on the job numbers, we took about 45% of their projection, just to make sure, under promise, over deliver.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So,
Because you had new jobs, because they did have some staff.
right, they had some staff there, there's gonna be more, but, so we put 20, they're good material terms, in my opinion, right?
They're gonna be able to find staff up there?
Oh, man, it's brutal. I got the ski slope offering me free ski passes, season passes to take Brazilians,
Yeah.
you know. They're making, you know, I'm a little interested.
Yeah, well, I mean.
So am I. But how many of them are, you know, we selling you some on the side?
Keep them going,
Yeah.
right now, the.
130 a day. It's a real high, yeah. It's
My nephew just
absolutely.
moved out to Park City, Utah.
It opened me up.
He's a restaurant,
I got some rooms I can
works in the restaurant business. And they just moved into brand new subsidized housing, you know, in the ski resort area
Yeah.
for their workers.
You got Hunter, I mean, there's 2 ski slopes, they're all bringing people in, there's just, and all those houses are Airbnb.
Yeah,
We went to a meeting yesterday, didn't know anybody there, they're all second homeowners, you
yeah.
know? What's the ski slope gonna do for me, a lady says, you know, can I get free, you know, discount passes?
Well, it's a different
You wanna
world.
work? You go
He
work
said,
on the
he
kitchen,
gave her a
you
good
just
answer,
shovel.
buy this $3,500 all-season pass for anybody you can hand out, you know?
It's unbelievable.
People are tough.
Did you see there was an article in the paper, a debate going on across the river on an application to rezone a property in Hudson for a hotel. I think it's a bed and breakfast right now, but they're going to a keyless, you know, a staffless hotel model for a property, and you know, where somebody will get the code, somebody will get the whole thing, and this. You know, it was more a question of what the definitions in their code are of hotel versus bed and breakfast and modeling's going on.
Interesting.
But to your, you know, you go to a hotel now, they can't force you enough to not interact with people, right? You know, do you want to get your key on your phone? Do you want to do all these sorts of things?
Yeah.
Whether it works or not, I'm not going to say, but
Works
it's
for
a
me.
very
Leave the
interesting
key on the
discussion.
desk and see you later, you know, you get a note.
The people that are looking at the story, and since it's still in negotiation, I won't mention the name of the company to keep it confidential, that's exactly what their model is. They have 2 other properties, they're in urban areas, they're typically small, they might be 2, 3, 4, 5 suites of that, you know, and there's a sort of a little self-serve area, but they have somebody at one place, so if you really need a human, you buzz or text or something, a human shows up, but for the most part,
That's sort of me.
you never see a person, you got your electronic
Yeah, I
key or
don't have any
whatever.
problem with it.
So anyway, I think,
But when you get to the jobs of these kinds of projects, you know,
They're greatly diminished.
right, the opportunity is going to reflect the reality of available workforce, period.
okay, so where are we at? We need a motion on those ones still, or we do?
No, we passed
do
it.
do the
We
Wilder
just
portions and
passed
stuff
it,
too?
yeah.
Okay, so we're all going to Wilder. Okay, moving right along then, Carroll Infrastructure Project. Basically, the county sent me a draft, some recipient agreement for the money to pass between. It's very simplistic. I'll flip it to you quick, Paul, just out of more courtesy, but it's just some strict, it's simple substance, yeah. But I just need to get authorization to execute that. And don't forget, that's for the purpose of us helping the county take the lead on getting that sewer line.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the
We need
motion.
the other one also.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's coming around.
With that, the Wyndham ski lift, we have another application, from Wyndham, I think, what are we, 2 years ago now?
Yeah, about 2 years.
2018.
It's the same time when we did Connor, we did that.
Yeah, couldn't remember the timing. But anyway, they're in for a new lift. I talked with Chip Siemens. They had a very good year last year, even with the pandemic, and they managed to put away money to replace the lift. And, you know, long story short, we've always supported, so they're asking for just a simple sales tax. And we've always supported the mountain, if nothing else, just on the virtue of the fact that right across go over another 2 mountain ranges and they got a competitor who never pays sales tax. So we need today, well, here's what we need today. We need to just accept the application. You won't even be in your cars out of the driveway yet, and the finding statement will be in your mailbox because it's done. And we need to set the public hearing, 2 is the motion today. For what date do you want to April?
I set it for November, the Monday before the board meeting.
Yeah, so whatever that date is.
It's,
we need to-
November
18th.
15th at 6 p.m.
We'll get you again. And then at this point, quite frankly, my intent is 30 days from now, we're gonna do the inducement resolution.
We'll find a resolution.
Yeah, this is gonna be this will be the fastest turn and burn we've ever done. This is
This
straightforward.
year?
Because it's
No, we're gonna
No,
do
the
it
next
spring.
year.
it's just sales tax.
Just that. And we're gonna have them do the same thing with, we're gonna have them do the same thing on the tourism center. The last time we did a project, we hit them for a higher value. We're just gonna bring it back down to 10%, which is kind of what we've been doing across the board now. Before we were playing around. So we're in for 10%. I forgot what the number is. It adds, it don't matter.
Is it a high-speed lift, upgrade?
I think
or-
they're replacing the short, the short one.
28,000.
That goes up to the mid-station.
It is, I can't remember if they called it high speed, but it's more, it's clearly, when I read the whole thing, it's like
They can move
more
people.
passengers, they can move more people, they've got a.
It's probably detachable. They've got an old chair that runs up to their mid-station lodge. I think that's the one they're looking at, is an old one. And the detachable ones are so much easier, you know, the high, you crank up those old chairs, man, you better be ready when it comes around.
Yeah, you better. Fast on and fast
It's
off.
taking you with it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
We're getting a little old when we're talking about
Oh,
that.
man.
So basically what we need on that then is, we need a motion to accept the application and a motion to set the date and time of the public hearing.
I'll make a motion on both sides.
Second, can we do them simultaneously on both?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we have a motion, we had a second, so all those in favor?
Aye,
Okay.
and aye.
Right. Aye.
So, exit 21 East, as you know, we reported that the Thruway got back to us with the purchase price on that, $421,100. I'm ecstatic. I mean, you know, we budgeted $750. If the board remembers, 2019, I had a good full appraisal done for 2 acres for Branch, what would be worth, and that was at $844. So, well,
It is what it is.
once in a while.
They feel bad for running you through the.
Yeah, that's it. They had to pay you for your.
If I had a patient discount. So anyway, we've already forwarded the funds to the county, things are moving along, it's probably still gonna take another 3 to 4 months to do the closing, because it has to go to the comptroller, it has to go to the attorney general's office, any contract does, it's just.
Yeah, and then we have to have an agreement with the county, right? Because they have to give it to the county.
Yeah, I don't know, you could, give that a call, I think the county, I don't know if we need agreement, county's gonna just flip it to us, but whatever we need to do.
Yeah, I'll talk to him about that.
On that. And then, I've already got Stewart's, is working on, I've given them the AutoCAD file, they've already started working on a site plan, giving me something to look at. Can't really move, my intent is to get Alan McDonald working immediately on the mapping and the subdivision and get everything prepared, so the minute it all flips, we're like into the planning board for it all immediately.
Where did that discussion around moving the tourism office over across?
That'll be part of it, so Stewart's will donate that building, that's still.
That's part of the package.
That's still part of the package, that's never been taken off the table. Stewart's is gonna make out good too, because they're gonna save a little money over where we originally talked some numbers on it, and we're gonna make out well, I'm giving them a final number. And then I think it will tell you right now, I think we have over $500,000 committed on these community fees we've been doing. And so between these couple we're just doing, we're close to adding there's almost another 100,000. I would say by the time we get it done, we'll have $600,000 reserve cash to
To the facelift and.
do the facelift and all,
Yeah.
and all the rest.
Well, I hope a facelift, because
Yeah.
that's pretty sad looking.
No,
It's
it can't be
tourism
an
center.
old store looking.
I
Hope it
know.
doesn't
The
cost
vintage
600
stores.
grand, yeah.
No, the plan is no more than a facelift, replace the
Yeah.
roof, the facade, the
Yeah.
windows,
Yeah.
and really do an overview on it.
Yeah.
And, you know, the county may have to kick a little money in at the end, or we'll go for some grants, if not, but if we've got
Yeah.
$500,000 of it already, or even
Covered.
better covered, we're in a good position.
Anybody have any idea what kind of head count or traffic count goes through that little tourism? Do people actually stop there?
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know if they
Same
got
thing.
you know what, so, I don't.
They get like 5 visitors a year, or is it?
Before I started working at Exit 21, I would have thought the exact same thing. I am amazed at how many people stop
Really?
at that visitor center. I haven't been counting them,
Yeah,
but I'm down there and I watch and
It's a
during,
tricky spot to stop into
but
as
there's
well,
still
so I
a lot of
think
people in and out of the
Yeah.
damn place, you
It
know?
just, with your phones, everything's at
Yeah, but
your
they're like me, I was in
fingertips.
the
I mean,
Cascarasma
who's-
trying to order dinner last night on my freaking Q code, and it was all, I wanna go in some, I'm an old timer, I like.
You wanna
give me
go
the
get
book,
it, you wanna
give me the
pick up the
flipping
brochure.
digital
The old
old
timer.
shiny
The
brochure.
kids don't wanna see anybody,
Yeah.
right? They-
Yeah.
So, no,
You wanna have your brochure.
in all seriousness, I'm really surprised at how much traffic was. through
Who
there.
staffs that? The Chamber of Commerce
Nope,
or the county? The county does.
So they have an economic, Heather, who is kind of the head of tourism, she has her office in there. And then they have like
Nancy,
two other
Patty,
people in there,
yeah,
kind of a receptionist, and then Nancy Petronelli sort of does the.
Does that $60,000 Jeep ever move or it just sits there?
Yeah, they should.
I'll drive it around for them if they want.
Miles out there.
It's always there, like
The
a
new site, you
billboard.
could make a mound and put that Jeep.
Right,
on
put it
there.
right
That'd
on
be good.
top. make it
Nancy
real
is
adventure
retiring,
center.
in November, she's out.
Right, and she's
So,
beating me out the door.
So it's a more accessible site, it'd be nice to utilize it for something more than just a.
Well, you're like a mind
brochure.
reader here.
I think those are things to
Dan,
think
because-
about, right?
Because one of the reasons I've been pushing this is because if the idea ever moves down to the county, who the flip wants to go downtown Catskill when we could all go to a meeting room up there?
Right.
When we have meetings with companies, it's such a pain to park in Catskill. Why not have them get off the thruway?
Right there.
Have a nice, so that's part of the plan, is have a nice conference room where, yeah, there's tourism, like tourism, you know, you're busy during the day, you got time, you don't wanna deal with, the reality, how many times have any of us said, I'm not gonna do it, I don't wanna screw with the parking, I'll just do
Yeah.
it some other time. So yes, that was the plan, was to have some facilities in there, at least hold meetings for organizations.
Do
like
they
this.
do anything with a sign when you come to that stop sign? Is that boat sailed or could
Well,
Home
now,
Depot?
well, see, they couldn't do anything before, they didn't own the property. And if this goes through, then we have the capacity to do that.
Do
We'll have
something,
some
yeah.
ownership and some of that, right?
Good.
And I thought about that, because that goes way back when there was all that debate of trying to do that.
Yeah.
Trying to put up.
Well, the town, they had a snag on the town and there was, people were against it or some dumb thing.
Yeah, I remember that. So anyway, but that's where we stand, with them.
Good.
I think that's it on that side with the thruway. Exit, on the west side, we're still working with the, exit 21 West. We're working still with the county and the hospital. In fact, I have a meeting with them at 11 o'clock. Right now, the plant, you know, as you know, the press release will be out today, tomorrow, somewhere in here, about the plant putting up to $1.5 million. It's a natural gas line extension, which builds on the 800 and some thousand we already spent. So I'm grateful that $1.5 million is not coming out of our account to get that accomplished. And the discussion right now is that the county is working with, if you remember when we went all through this, CMH wanted the sweet spot in that property, which was gonna leave some acreage at the bottom. That I just couldn't see how we could make it work to get a road to 3 or 4 acres separately, so it's sort of like you gotta take it all. Now the conversation is that maybe the county would take that piece in the back. They need a new mental health facility, the place in Carroll's falling down around them. But they also need to do with some of these requirements coming down, to have places where they can do immunizations, where they can have, you know, public health separated. You don't want people coming in your county office building
Right.
for, so,
Actual medical
so
facility.
we're having a meeting today, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm leaving it up to all those guys.
Right.
I did tell Sean, don't think you're gonna get it for the price of the hospital. Just kidding. They'll buy it, whatever it is, we'll break up, the county will buy certain acres. Hospital, it could fall apart yet, but that's where the discussion is
We've
going
had
right
to,
now.
that gives money back and. we got it.
And we've all said, I don't think that medical facilities are something that are not desirable. You know, we all know if you don't have good medical facilities, they will draw people, they will bring some people with some better jobs and some higher jobs and some stuff like that, so all good stuff on that. So I'll keep you posted as we progress on that. Other thing I want to talk about there is, April did some for sale signs that we put up in the old garage. And so we've had a lot of calls on it. 99% of them were just, no, we don't want a garage there.
Oh,
Yeah, across the
got it.
Hamptown,
Yep.
because that really sits where we could make
Yep.
a little lot
Yep.
also, really. So, the Camptown guys approached me, they would like to get it, but not really in a position right now to have, do a cash up front. Had a conversation, I said, well, maybe I could bring it to the board, we've done terms before. But we then now, so this is not really a formal offer, but we had another person contact us, and it's a group, and they've done a couple other projects, they're doing a kind of a, what would you describe the Red Hook store they're doing right now?
High-end donut shop.
It's a high donut shop.
That sounds
Duck donuts?
Yeah,
Donuts.
and they sent us a little business plan, they got a budget of about 2.3 million, and they reflected the purchase price, and our question to them was, do you have the money? And they said, yes, we're ready to fund ourselves. Young, one's an attorney, one girl works in film in California, and I didn't really pick up what the other two did. But their idea is to do it as a kind of a Catskills deli and try to do Catskill products and stuff like that. And then they have one of those old, the old diners, the silver car diners, whatever you want to call them, Silver Queens. They have-
Railroad card.
yeah, they have one of those they've restored.
Like that in Carroll there? at the-
Yeah, like the one used to be in Carroll, but this one, I haven't seen it, but although they showed some pictures, right?
There's some interior pictures.
Yeah, and so it's all restored, and they want to bring that to the site and make that into like a bar.
Incorporate it into the building somehow?
Not yet, it'll be separately, but it'll be out on the property, and that part would be used as sort of like a traditional bar, but they would also try to focus on local beers, local liquors and spirits, which there's a lot of local spirits being produced in Osseo Valley, and I have no clue who's making this stuff. So anyway, we are waiting now, they got back to April, said they are interested, and they are working with a lawyer and will by tomorrow have an offer to us, so at this point.
It doesn't conflict with
What's our
Camptown.
asking price?
How much is it?
That's the lot, this is our spec sheet.
It's a little over an acre,
Yeah,
and it's a
so this
low
is the
number.
hotel. Or
The deal would be, it goes
Yeah.
with no environmental contingencies. It does have,
The
right
camp-
in the middle of the site is the
And then CMH is
stormwater
gonna
comes
go
off that
here.
throughway, or comes
So
off
those
the
are
Yeah,
county road.
Camptown.
On the other side of the property is a sewer easement. There's an archaeological easement in the back. So,
The parking, I mean, there's enough park, that's a small lot for, an old rail car plus the building plus.
unless the board feels differently, I thought 300 was fair on it, given all the issues.
I think 300 is a good number personally, because I always look at it myself.
They've got a
Like,
big
if I
development
had to
they still
put
have to
into
do
it,
to that.
have
What's
it be-
They have development that they have to do in addition to the purchase price. Like,
Yeah, oh, no.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a
there's
risky,
about,
it's a risky
oh, yeah, there's
operation.
about
too.
2.2 million
It's still
budget.
enough. It's
They,
gonna-
That's a big budget for.
So it's 1.7.
That's a long,
With all the
stretch.
easements, so it's usable.
Right.
Second page is there.
I don't know much about that
And you
industry,
can,
but
you
you gotta sell a lot
use
of.
the easement
You gotta
areas,
move a
but
lot
they
of
just-
products
yeah,
and,
you
uh,
got-
Sell a lot of
I don't
donuts.
know how much
Either
the
that or you're-
size is there, but it
You're
looks like,
burning
yeah.
cash.
You can
Like,
park on
you're-
it.
Wandering.
No,
So right behind the building.
But the truth is, if you've ever driven by
Behind the
Gracie's,
building, it
I
drops
mean,
off 10
people,
feet right there.
They're giving nothing away.
they're giving
Oh,
nothing
right
away,
there.
and they've got their model, they have their food truck sort of thing, they figured out, people have figured out a way
You know, it's really
more
more.
restaurants, if you
Cool
want.
idea.
Fire service, right?
I don't know if we'll ever go back to the
Well,
restaurants
it would
pre-pandemic.
take that old building that we've done our best to keep up, we've had Billy Hendrickson mowing, and he does a nice job, he does extra weed eating and stuff like that. But it's still a little bit of an eyesore, so it'd be nice to get that piece moving, and then we
Well,
have some time.
Camptown would just use it as like a maintenance building.
No,
This
so they
is-
wanted to do sort of the same idea,
Oh, it is?
food, but that, they're. like
Yeah,
you said,
yeah,
we
yeah,
did
I
that
think
some
these are
before
gone.
we were out, that
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sure
right,
the
yeah.
project's not in budget. I am
Yeah,
saying that,
God
but
bless them.
I don't know anybody that's doing anything right
Sure.
now that hasn't had their budget blown up, but.
I mean, they're building another business
So
somewhere
anyway,
else already, they don't even have.
Probably what will
proper
happen is
runners,
we'll have an offer to bring back to the board for the next board.
What's the zoning there? Not our problem, but it is.
Highway commercial.
Are there
Okay.
any tanks or anything off there that's all right?
The tank, so David Carl, who sold us, said the tanks were taken out in the nineties when DEC was doing it. Some of you, if you guys remember, it was a while there in the early nineties, DEC was going around doing all these old garages pulling tanks.
Put a lot of business.
And that's when, Matt Clean Waters was working down at Hager's, or in Athens, doing all the dirt remediation at that time. So both, David tells me the tanks are out. His brother, Richard, who was the town judge for a long time, you know, David's David, but Richard, Robert, I trust. Robert said they were taken out. When we did the phase one, Delaware looked into it at phase one level, which you gotta realize it's not deep dive, couldn't find the record on it. But
Of it being taken out or
of
of
the
it being
tanks
there?
out, yeah. And then David didn't have any records, which is not uncommon. I mean, it's 20-some years ago, landowners are notorious for having nothing. So again, that's why I told these guys, and we've been up front, there's a hydraulic lift on the floor. I guarantee you, there's probably some hydraulic oil on the bottom. Foot valves are notorious for seeping on them. But again, if they don't tear the slab up or dig it up, it's not a problem. The slab's in great shape, put 4 inches over, some radiant heat, and we'll go to town and leave it there forever. And I've been up front while we have it, right behind the building. So if you look at the grade, it all runs steep back. Right behind the building, they did all that excavation deep for the wet wells for the pump station. Nothing, no fuel, no smell, no nothing. And right where the tanks used to be, within 10 feet of them is where the deep sewer line came down into the lot, and the same thing there was nothing. So all evidences are not there, but you want to pay, we're not paying, we're not putting any more money into researching.
It's not coming with any.
So that's 300, take it flat as it is. I don't know what they're gonna counter at. I'll bring it back to the board. I mean, everybody to date, I wasn't willing to back off any. Maybe we would consider something, a counter if there was we knew they were gonna do it. And you said, I will tell you this thing, everybody we've talked to, we've said a sale will be conditioned on a hard start date. We're not selling for spec, we're not selling, you start, we'll be reasonable, we'll allow terms, but I don't wanna get us caught up like here, we sold it in Reds, we got all that land, we don't control it, and nothing's getting built on it now,
Did
so.
you talk any money with the Carl people across the street? You said they don't have the funding right now, but did you get into numbers with them, what they would be willing to pay or something?
The campground people.
Campground?
No, not really.
Campground.
Because I was like you, I kind of also figure what they'll do is the likelihood that they would open the building up and do something. And his biggest thing, he kept pushing me, is parking for the restaurant. So I was kind of like, they get it. To your point, while they say they want to do it, it could be more tempting that all of a sudden you're filling the building up with stuff and using the parking lot. You don't
Storage
call it
building,
up.
right? We're not getting what we want.
And they've got a
to it
lot
eventually.
going on there. They're a long way from finishing their
Right.
initial vision.
Right, exactly. So
Yeah.
let's see what the counter offer comes in.
Don't give them another shovel.
Well,
You know what I mean?
yeah, because sometimes it's easy to dig yourself
That's
in the
right.
hole.
Yeah.
So if everybody's good with that, we're good. Okay. Flip Mine Solar, we have the application in. We haven't started even work on the process that I've been getting some background data information. NYSERDA and New York State Department of Taxation just issued 2 days ago the final financial calculation model for the valuation based on a cash basis. So they've been draft models out. So I didn't even look to see how much it changed, but now the model's out, we could actually use the real final model on that. Initially with these, if you remember way back with the solar projects, we did that supplemental solar fee because we figured everybody was fighting over how you evaluate these, what they're worth. And my biggest worry was, Greene IDA making a decision here in Coxsackie where everybody didn't want these solar projects and we'd be criticized for undervaluing. But now with the change in the real property tax law with 272B, I think it is, kind of pretty straightforward now. I mean, you're required by law to use this model, and I don't necessarily know that we gotta hire somebody out to go do the model. So so we're still gonna consider it. Just to let you know, we collected $100,000 application fee, okay, versus. So we have some room to do that.
I see the Hecate was approved by the state,
Hecate.
so, did they modify where they were putting that or anything, or did they stay?
Over time, they did make some modifications. They've actually scaled and pulled. They've changed it actually quite a bit from when they started, as far as that goes. This whole process is interesting, quite frankly, because you went to PSC, they were gonna have a vote, and then they realized that there was this problem. And then they moved the vote out to October, then all of a sudden they moved it back up to September. I mean, usually, I'd like to stick to October and we'll just sit on what we're gonna do. But they just switch meetings around, but they were approved. Everybody voted unanimously except for the ad hoc, which I didn't understand, because I did listen into the meeting. The ad hoc member that represents local voted no, but he's only an ad hoc, so I don't even know why he was voting. But they are approved, and I expect the application in any day. And this one will be a little bit of a tangle, because Flint Mine, from my perspective, Flint Mine is pretty well in line with where I think the thinking should be on it. Hecate is way off. And
Well, get religion.
that's how I would look at it.
Yeah, it's just, if you have a law, that's what it is. You just calculate it and,
Well, the pilots is subjective, but, when you already set one person up on a pilot at a certain, which is also one reason sequentially I want to run Flint Mine through the mill first, and then kind of set a precedent on that.
Yeah.
On our perspective, so, that's it, and, anticipated new projects. Well, I met yesterday with a guy named Peter Starr. Peter went to school with me, actually, graduated from Saki Athens here a year after me. Was a musician, probably older than you guys would remember, but he has this company called Star Enterprises. He's been working in the industry forever, and we had some promotional materials he brought in here, but what they basically do is high-end video systems, sound systems for like event centers or space. So he's done work overseas. He's done big work for like tabernacles and big churches. He's done that one big church up in Albany, that non-denominational, whatever it is, up there in Clifton Park. He's done their stuff. So anyway, he's looking at the G&H building, the G&H lumber building over here in Coxsackie, which is, been like vacant 5 or 6 years now. It's a really difficult property. So again, he would qualify. It's not retail. It's tech. It's high tech. There's some production. A lot of it's engineering, designing, and ordering. There is some fabrication where they're making their own speaker systems and some of their own stuff now. So there'll be some stuff coming to be made. The big thing will come down as to whether between the acquisition and his first improvements, whether the pro forma will work when you factor in, our fee, the legal reimbursements and like that, which I'll just put it out there, might give us an opportunity to try to figure out how we can somehow streamline things, still do them, and maybe have a special program for small companies.
How much
That's
How many employees?
Yeah, he varies. He's got like 4 or 5 that are core, and he says it just depends on where the workload is in the market. So he'll staff up when they're doing big projects, and he'll staff down.
Where's he based out of now?
He is. Maggie, you know where he's at? He's in the old. He's in that silver building. There was a church. They built it for the church there on Main
Right
Street.
on that-
He's next to that,
The cathedral.
he's next to Dennis, the chop shop, the
Oh,
old
he's in-
auction.
Oh, that
yeah.
place, yeah.
Yeah.
Right
So-
on 35?
Yeah, right on, in the village,
Yeah,
Dennis,
right-hand
with
side,
the
you
horrible,
This is a
road
huge,
there.
this is a huge property for him.
Yeah,
It is.
what's
So one of
what's
his
the
lot-
ask price for that property right now, do you know?
It was $7.99 or something, and they just increased it like $8.99. I think is where he told us yesterday in the meeting. It's the lower price. I understand why. So where we stand is, I said, look, there's no sense going any further. You go see if you can work a number with him, because one, we can't figure out the mortgage taxes until you work a number. And then, once you do that, and you've got your costs, come back and see me, and we'll do a couple pre-application meetings, charge you, and let's back of the envelope some stuff here and see whether we can do something to help them out. If I did so anyway, my recommendation, this won't come through when I'm, I'll be sitting on the sidelines when this comes through, but I would say that this would be a priority. This is it's a tough property. It's right in the flipping middle of the village. And if we could help, so even at the point later, and we never said nothing to them or something like this, but if we had to even think about taking a little haircut ourselves, we're at a position where we're getting almost, in the next 3 years, like $5 million in fees.
But what does he do? I mean, he's producing the equipment? Because I don't know if there's
I think he's
anybody
a
in that, I
contractor.
mean, or is it just a storage unit?
Yeah,
I think
they,
he's making maybe some specialty components.
that's it.
The
Really allow,
Yeah.
a lot
Setting
of
up
stuff
the
is
environment.
manufactured, will ship right to the site, and then their
Yeah.
teams will come in and put them in. They do have some vehicles, but what they're doing, they are now, since the pandemic, they are now transitioning into producing their own line of products. So they've been using everybody else's stuff and putting them together, these big video walls like you see in the casinos, all that kind of, that's what he does. So they're producing their own stuff, so they're sequentially gearing up. We'll be getting more and more stuff made by subcontractors that are making the speaker product, the business.
I think the biggest issue is gonna be just negotiating on price and
I do
getting
too.
some clarity on that, because I
Yeah.
knew that with across the street, I couldn't get any clear answer on things, and it went nowhere.
I'm with you too.
You-
Who owns the
The
property?
bank has to sign, somebody else has to
G&H
sign off
lumber.
on
Yeah.
the
They'd be
deal,
happy
so
to
that's
get
the
money for
problem.
that
is-
thing.
Well,
Well, they haven't taken the haircut.
Yeah, it's not getting any more value.
Yeah, it's going to shit. It's rough.
They're holding that on some paper that's.
They're hanging on
looks
the
like it's
railing
worth
outside
more than it is.
when you come into the shop.
Yes, that's.
Is G&H bankrupt or is it?
No,
But aren't they responsible for the lease of it, or did they give the property back to the bank?
Well, yeah.
No, they haven't, but,
Yeah.
so everybody has to understand, because don't forget, we went through this whole thing with G&H, trying to make that relocation work. Some other issues, they got some cross collateralization there that most people might not have done in your business, and, you also have to recognize that when you buy something like that, an existing business, the real estate sometimes, unless you're gonna keep it, it's good and solid, you're gonna stay there and run it, the real estate becomes your liability. You want the customer base, you want to buy the competition now.
Inventory.
And so if everything goes well, then, you just sort of, real estate's a loss leader somewhere, you need it. Things don't go so well, then it becomes kind of a,
Albatross.
so that's where it is. But anyway, right now, I just want everybody to know it's there. I would tell you that would be a strong interest just to see the property get something done.
Absolutely.
I do think it would be one that would go in where he's not gonna present a lot of people to start, but he's got, some ability to grow where he wants to go, grow his product line. But more to come. This is just preliminary first meeting information on that. But to your point, I will tell him, he says, I have an option to buy around Athens, and I'm kind of considering, maybe I just stay there and then I could add on and all this, and I'm like, so if you want a piece of word advice, I just might suggest you do some really good homework on the whole zoning, building stuff in Athens, because that stretch of those buildings has always been a sticking point.
Well, they're all commercial, they're in a commercial zone. I just was curious as to what he was, manufacturing.
Well-
I mean, every now and then you see cars there. And last that I knew, that is not its own parcel. It's on the same footprint as the building next door. It's all one parcel. And it at one point got tied up because it's owned by somebody who unexpectedly died.
Right.
A longstanding family, as I recall. And I don't know that any of that was resolved either from the who inherited it in terms of managing the project. So, I mean,
It's a mess.
it's right. It's what happens with planning when you own real estate and things. But that was a while ago, so all of that may have since been cleared up. So he rents, is what I.
Yeah, so I guess it's gonna come up for sale. He has option on it. He has right of first refusal, I should say. But to your point, it's commercial now, which would be no big deal, but listening to his plans, where he's taking the business is into a light industrial use, basically. It's not typically commercial use when you're, because he's not.
But that's still right. That's still permitted in where he is. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see what happens with that. They've got to do their homework, they got to get a price, they got to work up a budget for me, and then we can work up the idea and incentive side of it and see whether it works or not work. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. No harm, no foul. So I think that's everything I had. Just as a little FYI, I am heading to Florida in the morning, and I'll be back on like November 1st. I'm in touch with April. I got that I'll do some work remote, some I'm gonna be off, but I've had a positive change in personal life, let's just put it that way, very positive change, and thank God, and go forth.
Well, enjoy.
We're gonna adjourn.
Yeah.
Unless anybody has anything else, we're good to go.
Need a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Second? All in favor?
All right.
Aye.